How do I want to introduce this guest? He is our favorite. He wears many hats, many titles. I would say probably some of his favorite people probably call him dad or husband. He is an integrative cancer doctor. He was my doctor along with his team. And now Savannah and I consider Dr. Tony and Marcy, his wife, dear friends. So, with that, I want to introduce Dr. Tony Jimenez. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
being here.
Thank you, Zach and Savannah. That was very kind. But we consider you more than friends or dear friends. We consider you family, and
Mm,
we're just so very proud of how Savannah, as your faithful companion, and just the person that the Lord knew so many years prior to your diagnosis that it was going to take that team effort, right, for you to be healed, and you are healed in his name. So
right.
all due to the effort that you put forth and are putting forth, and also with the help of Savannah and of course your beautiful family. It's such a blessing. It's funny, I just came back from it's called the Effective Biomedicine Congress, and this was held in Vienna, Austria. And I was a keynote speaker there. But it's just funny, just a funny comment of how you introduced me there, because they introduced me there as the Pope, the Pope of Integrative Oncology. And I'm like, no, 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 no. I'm just being obedient. The Lord put this track in my career as a doctor in front of me. This wasn't my goal. First of all, I wanted to be a professional basketball player. When that didn't happen, then I said, okay, I'll be a doctor. And then I was in the surgical track.
Mm,
And my dad was diagnosed with prostate cancer. We lived in Houston. He lived in Houston, Texas at the time. And you could imagine the hospital he went to there in Houston. And he had one treatment of conventional medicine, unbeknownst to me that he was diagnosed with prostate cancer. And he had one treatment of a hormone blocker. And then after that, he called me and he said, Son, I was diagnosed with prostate cancer. I did this. I had one treatment, and I just can't do that anymore. I'd rather not do anything that continue more treatments there at that hospital in Houston. And then he said, can you help me? And that was like a big wake up call. I said, well, yes, I can. I didn't know how I could. Maybe similar to you, right? When you were looking for options, and I'm sure it was a divine appointment for you. But I didn't know how I was going to help my dad. But the Lord gave me the ways. He opened the doors, gave me the mentors that I needed at that time. This was many, many years ago, and my dad was cured. And
mm,
I think in oncology, that's one word that's kind of a bad word. But why is it a bad word?
mm,
We want you to be cured because now standard of care is about management. They manage hypertension, they manage diabetes, they manage arthritis, they manage cancer. But why can't we say cure? Because when we gave that Hippocratic oath as a doctor, we want the best for the patient. We want them to be cured. So my dad was cured. I'll say that he was cured. And many years later, he passed at the age of 83 from heart disease. So nothing related to the cancer, the prostate cancer. And he had two open heart surgeries. So the heart was really an issue for him. But even that, Zach and Savannah and all your listeners, natural integrative therapies that I use for my dad, even for his heart condition of congestive heart failure, two open heart surgeries, that prolonged his life, and not only prolonged his life, but gave him great quality of life to the point where the cardiovascular surgeon in Florida, where he lived at the time, said, I've never seen a patient like this not get an infection or a pneumonia or something else. So that's the power of God's medicine, right? The power of nature. And then knowing really the intelligence of the cell. right? The intelligence of the cell. And also, though, cancer cells are intelligent. You heard me say this before, right?
Yep.
Mhm.
There's super cancers and smart cancers. And this was not even my quote. This was the head of clinical oncology at Stanford and the former president of the American Cancer Society, Dr. Sledge. He said there's stupid cancers and smart cancers. But as we know, 90+% of the cancers are smart. They're not stupid. And
Mhm.
so we have to outsmart them. And I don't know if you both know, but my second book came out and it's called Cancer Outsmarted: 11 Integrative Hallmarks of Cancer to Minimize Risk and Optimize Health. So this is for everyone, right? For everyone to read. And I did like you, Savannah. I made it very easy to understand at maybe third grade level or maybe fifth grade. But anyway,
We'll give you
it's
at least fifth grade.
it's a must. And then I also consider your book, Not Even a Spark, Our Family's Journey Through Cancer, to be an amazing, spectacular book. And actually, a friend of a friend called me, and they have a family member with colorectal cancer.
Hmm.
And guess what, Zach? I told them, get this book. Right? Get
Wow.
this book because it's so empowering and nothing like hearing from someone that went through the journey, right? As the subtitle says, and as a family, that's so important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think a couple things. You hit a lot here just in this opening segment. Going back to having a partner and God knowing and bringing, all from eternity past,
Mhm.
I tell people I give God the glory and my wife the credit because without either of them, I wouldn't be here. And it's just to see God's hand over our story and the path, right? You got to know God's voice. You got to know His will to know the path that He has people on. And I just when I look at Kezia, our newborn now, it's just like God is faithful, and His promises are true.
Talking about promises, oftentimes I ask the patient, do you still believe, do you believe that miracles still happen? Or did that stop 2000 plus years ago, right?
Mhm.
Because it's so-called spontaneous remission. What is that, right? Nothing happens spontaneously.
Mhm.
It's energy, it's vibration, it's frequency, it's love, it's gratitude, it's all that. And so miracles happen today. And funny story, years ago, I went to my parents' home in Florida and I was going through my mom's stuff and I find my high school yearbook. I went to high school in New Jersey, in Patterson, New Jersey. So I looked at my high school yearbook and it was my senior yearbook. So, they have a picture of each graduating student and like their zodiac sign, their famous quote, their famous athlete or whatever. And for my quote, Zach and Savannah and everyone, I wrote back in high school when I was almost 17, I guess. I wrote, God heals and the doctor takes the fee.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah.
Isn't that so true?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Wow, that's
That's awesome.
Can you share? We know the story, but the prophecy that was given to you, can you share that story?
Yes, yes, that was I was raised Christian. I was raised as a Catholic. I was even an altar boy growing up, which was good, especially the wine. No, I'm kidding. But I was visiting my parents in Pasadena, Texas. I was already a practicing physician in Tijuana, Mexico. And this is before GPS and cell phones and all that, Google. So I looked in the yellow pages, and at that time, I was just recently baptized. I was just recently, um, born again, and I was going to Assemblies of God Church in Mexico, in Tijuana. And so I was at my parents' house, and I looked in the phone book and for an Assemblies of God church in the Yellow Pages. And I saw a list of some of them, maybe six, seven, and I picked one randomly and I called them, the dial phone. You don't remember that, you're too young. So I called that church and it was a Saturday morning. And I asked them, what time is your service tomorrow, Sunday? They said, no, no, come tonight, Sunday, because we have a guest minister. It's a special event. We're celebrating something. So I said, sure. I didn't identify myself. And then they gave me the address. And later on in that day, Saturday, I looked in the atlas. You don't remember atlases either, right? And
It's
then I
everything
figured
that it's
out,
paper. Come on, we have
yeah.
I have an atlas on here.
Yes, Zach, so I figured out how to get there. And truly, it was a special event. The place was decked out. There was flowers. There was a guest minister. It happened to be a female. And there was an aisle in the middle and all the seats on either side, of course. And there were about 1,000 people in the church. I was in the back, 5 seats in from the main aisle. And so the guest minister, she made an altar call. And Tony, shy Tony, because I am an introvert, by the way, shy Tony is there. Don't comment, Savannah. Guy Tony gets up and he's like, excuse me, excuse me. So I'm walking down the aisle to the front of the church. And I'm like, Tony, sit down. What are you doing? And you have this feeling like the Holy Spirit is just guiding you and pushing you. So I
Mhm.
get to the front, I close my eyes, I start praying. Every once in a while, I kind of peek what's happening. And, a lot of people were coming up to the front to the point where you just squish there. And, the guest minister starts speaking in tongues. And then she said, there's someone here who's going to do great things in medicine, but it's not in this country. And remember, we were in Pasadena, Texas, which is a suburb of Houston.
Mm.
And he's going to travel the world. He's going to treat ministers, famous people, royal family, generals, actors, like, and us common people as well. And he will have a center where many will come for health and healing, but it's not in this country. And so at this time, as she's saying all this, I'm thinking, is it me? No, it can't be me. There's so many people here. And then she said, and it's that young man there.
Mm.
And she pointed in my direction, but I still didn't think it was me.
You're like looking behind
Yeah, yeah,
behind your
looking
shoulder.
behind, looking below, looking up. And she said, you with the blue shirt. Oh, me. And then she said, let's all extend our hand toward him and let's pray for him. And that's what happened. And I could tell you that the Lord has confirmed this prophecy time and time and time and time again. And so I know that with all the challenges of doing integrative oncology that come along our way, whether it's governmental, pharmaceutical, patient challenges, I know that this is divinely appointed.
Mhm.
It's God's work. For Marcy and I, this is our mission, and for our staff. And this is why we work hard. And also, we go to bed at peace, right? Because we know we're following his lead, the Lord's lead. We know that we're always doing our best. We're not slacking and always researching and educating others. This is why I'm so happy to be on your podcast because the more people are aware of opportunities, right, and options, then that allows them to think creatively. I say that healing is a creative force which aligns the spirit, the mind, and the body to what's possible, not just what's present. So when we align the spirit, the mind, the body, what's present is not what has to be there,
Mhm.
right? It's what's possible. And that's the healing, that's the cure.
Yeah.
And it's so beautiful.
Hmm. That's awesome.
Yeah.
We the Labies are so thankful, not just Savannah and I, but even our kids,
Mm.
that those many years ago leaned into that, into God's calling and knew his voice and the prophecy. Um, we're forever grateful. We call the Tijuana, everybody talks about Cancun and the Cancun clinic and the weather.
Yeah.
Um,
paradise.
It's paradise. We always tell people, actually, Savannah just got off the phone with somebody yesterday who's going down in a couple weeks to the Cancun. And they're always like, oh, did you go to Cancun? And we're like, actually, our initial stay was in Tijuana. And they're
Yeah.
like, oh, Tijuana. Like,
We loved it
and we're like, Tijuana is our healing home.
Yes.
Like, we did go to Cancun, and
for a
I
follow-up.
understand why everybody is, it's paradise.
Yeah.
But you get the same great care, and we just we say either Mexico or Tijuana is our actually we say Hope for Cancer. Hope for Cancer is our healing home, and we are so grateful for you guys.
Hey, that's interesting that you say that, Zach, because we opened Tijuana in the year 2000. So this year we're celebrating our 25th year. And Cancun, we opened in 2015. So it's 10 years this year. And when we opened Cancun, we said, wow, it's going to be easy to get patients to Cancun. They'd rather come to Cancun than go to Tijuana. But guess what? We were wrong.
Hmm.
So they want to go to Tijuana because Tijuana, for many years, decades actually, since I would venture to say since the 1960s, it's been the mecca of integrative alternative cancer care. And many have come to Tijuana throughout the decades from all over the world, from Asia, from Germany, from Switzerland. Actually, I was talking about this to some of my German colleagues this last week while I was in Vienna, that Tijuana is recognized in the world for being that melting pot of many brains that went to Tijuana and set up an alternative, integrative, complementary oncology center. And so, yeah, it's been a blessing that we're in Tijuana since the year 2000, and our staff is amazing. I just got off the phone. We do every week. This is how much we focus on our patient. Is every week we have an hour and a half, what we call medical stand-up. And we have the clinic director, we have a doctor, we have the best program doctor, which is the behavior, emotional, and spiritual transformation. And then we have the nutritionist, we have the home program support doctor. So a big team to go over the wins, go over the challenges, go over, anything that I need to know. And we do that on a weekly basis. And we do this with Cancun as well, weekly. So we work really hard in delivering the best care, always knowing that we could always get better, right? Because everything can improve. So I'm
Yeah.
glad. I'm glad Tijuana was, it's like our mother clinic, right? It's like, yeah, that's where it all started.
I had some people in my life when we said we were going to go to Tijuana, Mexico. They said, what about your safety? What about the cartels? And there's so much pulverizing, about Mexico safety or even just Tijuana, because it's right over the border. And I looked at those people and I said, God has put something in me that I have to do this. And I said, it's not a matter of safety. This is a matter of my life.
And
And I'm like,
and
when God put that in my heart and it was a matter of like life and death, it's like your safety, God's gonna take care of the safety and the details. I just need to be obedient.
We had a patient that I met or we met in Santa Barbara, California, when I was giving a lecture up there, and she wanted to come to Tijuana. We didn't have Cancun at that time. This is probably, I don't know, 2012 or so. And she had an aggressive cancer, and she said, I want to go to Mexico. I want to go for your treatments at Hope for Cancer in Tijuana. But her husband didn't allow her, didn't allow her, didn't allow her. And the story is she kept on insisting. And then one day, this guy appears at our clinic in Tijuana, and he identifies himself as the husband of this lady that wanted to come to us. And we said, sure. So he did a little tour. And then for the next 2 days, our staff and our security guard would see him outside, like going back and forth through the streets, and then he would disappear and come back. And so then he left after 2, 3 days. And then shortly thereafter, he comes back with his wife. and he drops her off at the clinic in Tijuana and leaves.
Oh, wow.
And so she was there for the 3 weeks treatment. And what happened is that he was an FBI agent in the US. And so he came and did a recon, I guess, and figured out, oh, it's okay for my wife to be here. So he brought her, left her there, and went back home. And, she did her treatment. So then I also think, well, how safe is Chicago, Detroit, Miami, and the list goes on and on, right?
I just knew what God was telling me,
Yeah.
and it worked out.
Praise
God's,
God.
yeah, praise God. So I've got a little prophecy story. So it was just a few months. Um, I was at our pharmacy getting vitamin C IVs, and I would do that twice a week.
It's an integrative pharmacy. So they even have like B17 IVs,
Mm,
high dose vitamin C. They have supplement lines. So they even have a Rife machine
mm,
and some,
Just other detoxing. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
mm,
So this Catholic nun was there,
mm,
and we were talking, and I'm only giving her like basic information. So I'm like, all right, I'm Zach, 33, colorectal cancer, stage 3, went to Hope for Cancer. Just I'm not spilling the beans. I didn't tell her about, I was like, I'm married. We do have kids. I didn't tell her how many kids. So I'm being very vague.
mm,
And after I get done with the IV, she said, we need to find some place where like there's nobody else and we need to lay hands on you. And I'm like, I have to be open. And she just laid hands. She started speaking in tongues and then she started prophesying over me. I remember I'm just like trying to be open and I'm like, Lord, if this is of you, I receive it. But if this is some like weird voodoo, strange stuff, then I rebuke it. And during and then even after the prayer, when we started talking, she said, God is showing me that if you and your wife want to have more kids, have as many kids as your heart's desire, even if it's in this season of healing your cancer. And I said, wow, that's profound. I said, because we have five, we have four plus a newborn, and we wanted to have we always said like within 9 months, she usually was pregnant again with the next. And I'm like, cancer put a dampening on this. And I said, we really desire to have more kids. We just, that's something to pray through. And she's like, well, God was showing me to have more kids. I was like, okay. Then she said, this is where I got angry when she told me this. Now, mind you, I'm 3 or 4 months diagnosed. Mentally and emotionally, I felt like I was dying. She said, God is going to bring you through this season of life and heal you, and He's going to give you a ministry you couldn't build yourself or ever imagine.
mm.
All right. And I
Yeah.
went home and I told Savannah, I'm like, listen what this Catholic nun, I'm going off because it's just like, how dare you? Well, now fast forward 3 years, and here we are, present day. And back in July, so right now we're in October, back in July, I quit my job
Mm,
to pursue Labia wellness and just be available to help people, to to be on social media. I mean, that has a story in and of itself. And it's just we see ever since diagnosis, I mean, even before that, but especially in the last 3 years, we've just seen God's hand and we press into what is God saying to us? Do we know his voice? Are we abiding in him? Are we connected? And where is he directing our steps? And
mm,
that's really how this healing journey has begun. That's why I say without God getting the glory and my wife the credit, I wouldn't be here. And I mean, a lot of it too is it is Hope for Cancer. It's you and your doctors, teams, and nurses. Hope for Cancer gave us hope. It gave us belief that healing was possible, and it was a springboard for everything that we've learned, that we're doing, that we continue to do. And
mm.
we're so excited, we're so passionate. I tell people you need to go to Hope if money's not an issue, get on the next flight to Hope for Cancer. And yeah, we speak so highly of you guys.
When Zach came home and told me that this is what was prophesied over him, I too was like, there's no way. Like, there's no way. Like, we were still thinking this tumor is going to spread and it's gonna grow outside because he was stage 3 colorectal cancer, but stage 3C. So it was
Mm.
already breaking through the rectal wall. And so, I mean, really, we were just every day hanging on for dear life, hoping that he would have a bowel movement and not get blocked. So, for to be in the middle of that, and then this Catholic nun come and say, "You're going to have a ministry that you could never build yourself." It was like, what? Like, you just can't even envision that. So,
Very similar, right, to my prophecy, Zach, because it is a ministry and what we're doing in a mission. And I'd like to add a comment there. In this conference in Vienna that I just came back from, we had a workshop, and the doctor is a very prominent doctor in Europe. We're good friends. He does really good work. And in the workshop, he said, if someone is struggling, let's say with the liver or the gallbladder, and I don't know if he's a believer or not, but what he said is put your hand on that area, the area where the liver is, and just send it love
mm,
and send it gratitude and good things, good emotions. So I know that deep down, how I understood that or how I took it was, of course, laying hands, right? The power of the Holy Spirit and to heal and the Lord. And so, but for, a German doctor to say that, he didn't say it from a Christian perspective, but maybe he did. I don't want to assume anything, but he mentioned it as love and just the right energy, right? And that's so beautiful. But wow, where we are now, right?
When reading your book and you talk about cancer's not a death sentence, that is what spoke life into us.
Mhm.
It took months to not be like gripped by fear, but
Mhm.
it was like when we got home from the clinic, it was let's hit the ground running because now is the time to heal.
Yeah.
yeah.
And that's why the subtitle of my first book, Hope for Cancer, is Seven Principles to Remove Fear, right? Because fear is the opposite of faith.
Mm.
And so when you move away from fear, it's like moving away from pain and going into purpose, right? From pain to purpose, from fear to faith. And then that's where the power of healing just takes over so amazingly. And I want to say to that end that as a naturopath, because I'm a medical doctor, MD, and a naturopath, but as a naturopath, we learned about what's called the therapeutic order of healing. And the first one is to remove obstacles to health or obstacles to cure. And the second one is stimulate the body's self-healing mechanisms. It's like when you get a cut, you don't direct anything. The body self-heals. So we have to stimulate the body's self-healing mechanism by doing the good things that you know, nutrition, sleep, hydration, exercise, decreasing stress, right? And then the third one is strengthening the weakened systems. So my weakest system is the digestive system because of all my travel, sleepless nights, on and off with food based on where I am, what part of the world, and all that. So I have to strengthen my weakest system, which is the digestive system, right? And then the fourth order in the therapeutic order of healing is um, the posture, correcting structural integrity or the posture so that energy can flow unabated, right? And so the autonomic nervous system, which is the sympathetic fight or flight, and the parasympathetic, which is the rest and digest and more calming. If our posture is misaligned, then there's problems with our autonomic nervous system. And we're doing all the good things. We're doing the infrared lights, we're doing the supplements, we're doing the IVCs, hyperbaric, all that. But if it's not all put together, the healing is going to be more compromised, right? In its ability to get to the point where we want to be. And then, of course, as you said, Zach, that emotional perspective, the mind, the spirit is key because we healed in a downward causation, meaning medical science nowadays and conventional medicine is totally upside down, where it's only about the tumor, the cancer, about the body, no importance to the mind and the spirit. Whereas if we look at it from antiquity, it was always about the spirit, mind, mental, and then the physical body. And that's what we need to always remember.
When we were in Tijuana, Dr. Quintana, which I think he's retired now.
Yes.
He retired. I know. But he was Zach's doctor, and I think every day I asked him, so will this therapy shrink the tumor? So will that therapy shrink the tumor? Will this treatment make the tumor go away? I was so concerned with wanting that tumor gone. And he was so kind. He'd always come over, Savannah, it's not just about the the tumor. It's
Yeah.
not just about the tumor. We have to heal Zach's whole terrain, the whole
Yes.
terrain. And I'm like, okay. And then the next day would come and I would say, hey,
Can we can we get this done by Thursday? Like,
yeah,
And that word that you mentioned, Savannah, is so important, the terrain. And I want all your audience to remember that word, the terrain, because if the terrain is, see, I believe that cancer is an opportunistic disease, right? And that means that we're setting a pathological, uh, complicated, chaotic terrain, and then abnormal cells that are developing every moment of every day, they're going to have that opportunity to thrive. So a cancer cell is really a cell that's damaged either by EMFs, poor nutrition, stresses, toxicities, and that damaged cell has a couple options. Number one is to repair itself, right? But if it doesn't repair itself, the other possibility is to kill itself. The medical word is called apoptosis, programmed cell death. And that happens every second of every day. Our cells are killing themselves or apoptosing, and new cells are developing. So if that damaged cell didn't repair itself, it didn't kill itself, it didn't apoptose, then it's going to survive, it's going to go rogue, and that is a cancer cell. And like any living organism, it's going to try to survive. And it has 14 known hallmarks. And this was published out of Boston College, Harvard, and other universities quite a number of years ago. Well, back then there were seven, and then they found 10, and then 12, and now there's 14 known, um, studied extensively 14 characteristics of all cancers, independent if it's colorectal, brain, pancreatic, lung, prostate, ovarian, they all have these 14 characteristics. And when we do integrative oncology, it's not about to what we're talking about, it's not about the tumor. It's about getting to, as your shirt says, find the cause and find the cure, right? What are the root causes? What are these hallmarks? How much is inflammation playing a role? How much is a depressed immune system playing a role? Nutritional deficiencies or excesses, lack of exercise, so many other parameters that are part of this, right? And so cancer is truly an opportunistic disease. And by the way, it's not even a sentence. Cancer is a word. So how could it be a death sentence, right? It could be a death word maybe, but it's not.
mm,
Cancer is a word. So yeah, and then the doctor tells patients that they're terminal. Well, everyone, ask your doctor, are you not terminal? Who's not terminal?
yeah, we all are.
We all are, right? Yes, we all are terminal. And then they say that if you don't do chemo and radiation and so forth, that, you're going to die. Yes, but you know that the number one cause of death in cancer patients, it's not even the cancer. It's the treatments that they received for the cancer that led to poor nutrition, sarcopenia, muscle wasting. So you've heard of insulin resistance and about metabolism, and the great population now have insulin resistant. And the way to tell is that muscle mass begins to decrease And then after that, the liver starts to struggle, and then you get the fat, the accumulation of fat. So it's a slowly progressing um, process that we are enabling the body. Now, a new study came out recently. It was a small number of patients. It was 108 patients. But what they found is that aging in disease is not a linear path. It's nonlinear, which means what they found is at the age of 44 and at the age of 60, significant transitions happens in metabolism of insulin, glucose, and also your immune system. So if anyone is listening out there who's 44 and above, and you were below this age, and that's another other factors that come into play. But at 44 and at 60, there is documented significant transitions that happen in our metabolism. And if you're out there and you're drinking, after these ages of 44 and 60 years of age, if you're drinking, your body is struggling even more to detox from that alcohol. And it is now known that alcohol contributes to 7 types of cancer, increases the risk of 7 types of cancer. So it's very important to be efficient in what you do. For me, I'm not perfect by any means, but I'm very strict with my supplements and I rotate them every 3 months or so. I'm always taking something for the prostate because, as I said, my dad had prostate cancer, and not that cancers are genetic, they're epigenetic, but still there is that genetic component that I don't want it to turn on. So I always take a prostate formula. But I rotate that formula to a different brand or different ingredients like every 3 months or so. So supplements, and the thing is, we eat healthy, don't we, Zach and Savannah, right? And our
Yep.
kids, family. However, unfortunately, even the best organic and best foods out there, they're not as nutrient dense as they were 40, 50 years ago because the soil has been compromised. So supplementing, if you were to ask me what supplements I would consider be like the top supplements, is vitamin D. It's very, very important because vitamin D has over 200 functions in the body, including the immune system, bone health, heart health, the brain, and so forth. So that must be supplemented because we see this all the time at our centers that hope for cancer that the majority of patients, I would maybe venture to say 90+% of patients are severely vitamin D depleted, right? So we want the vitamin D levels in blood to be 80 to 100. That's ideal. Optimal. Although the range, if you look at your blood tests, right, Zach, it says, oh, you're 40 or 45. That's good. Well, that might be within the range, but that's not optimal. And we have to choose for wellness and optimization of our health. So, vitamin D, I would say omega. Omega is a big considered supplement because studies have been done on the omega-6 to omega-3 ratio. And that should be 2 to 1, 3 to 1. And in the US, the average omega-6 to omega-3 ratio is in the 20s, like 22. What does this mean? More inflammation,
Mhm.
more risk of cardiovascular disease, the number one killer, right? And a lower immune system and so forth. So omegas is it's very important. And then magnesium, I would say magnesium and typically magnesium glycinate will be my choice because magnesium is very essential for many processes in the body and oftentimes is depleted also. And then a good green formula because we just don't consume enough what I call the garden food plan, right? So those would be some of my tips. Decrease inflammation, improve oxygenation, decrease acidity, and sweat, right? These are things that cancer cells don't like.
Hmm. Yeah. So, can you talk really quick too about the difference between tumor cancer cells and cancer stem cells, the circulating cancer cells? Explain that.
Yeah. So, as I mentioned, a cancer cell is a damaged cell that couldn't repair, couldn't kill itself, then it becomes a cancer cell. And there's an accumulation of all these cells, and that's what's called a tumor, or a mass, or a lump, or a bump. And that happens in the breast, in the colorectal area, in the pancreas, anywhere that we know breast cancer, colon cancer, right? And so when these cells are called, the majority of these cells are called non-cancer stem cells. That's about 99% of the tumor are non-cancer stem cells, or even of the lymph nodes if there's lymph node metastasis, right? 1% are called cancer stem cells. And these are the guys that leave the breast or the colon or the pancreas and go to the liver, to the bones, to the brain, to the lungs. That's what's called metastasis, right? When the cells leave the original place, organ or tissue, and then they go elsewhere. It's like I was born in Colombia and I moved to New Jersey, where I grew up. So in essence, I metastasized to New Jersey, right? So those circulating cancer cells that left the tumor, the main tumor, those are the ones that chemotherapy doesn't kill and radiation doesn't kill. So let's say someone had a lump in their breast and they had a lumpectomy or a mastectomy, or in your case, Zach, a colonectomy, splenectomy. All these ectomies are removing that. And so you remove the tumor, but you don't know if before removing the tumor, some of these cells went into the circulation to make them circulating tumor cells. That's why after a surgery, what does the oncologist say? We got it all, but follow it up with chemo and radiation. But wait, doctor, you just said you got it all. So
Yeah.
why are you telling me to get chemo and radiation? Because they know that getting it all is kind of it's not really getting it all, right? Because some of these
Yeah.
cells, but the thing that they don't take into account, as I mentioned, is that chemo and radiation don't kill these circulating cancer cells anyway. So,
Hmm.
and then radiation can lead to secondary cancers.
Yeah, so it's crazy. We have a few people that have just come to us saying that they have breast cancer in their family, and it's recommended to them that they have a double mastectomy
Mhm.
to avoid getting breast cancer.
Yeah.
And these are younger women who are still in the age of having babies and breastfeeding. And I just thought, is that even true? Like, can you avoid, if you don't have breasts, can you avoid breast cancer?
So let me read to you something I sent my doctors yesterday. It says approximately 5 to 10% of all breast cancers are hereditary. 5 to 10% of all breast cancers are hereditary, most commonly linked to mutations in the BRCA1 and BRCA2. And here's the key. However, having such a mutation does not mean that cancer is inevitable. Doesn't mean you're going to have cancer if you have a BRCA1 or BRCA2. These mutations significantly increase susceptibility, increase your risk, but the actual development of the breast cancer depends on a combination of hormonal, environmental, toxicities, stress, and all that. Lifestyle factors as age at first pregnancy, hormone exposure like xenoestrogens, right? Phytoestrogens, all that from xenoestrogens, obesity, alcohol consumption, and lack of physical activity all increase or modify the risk. So again, it's those epigenetics. If they have that BRCA gene and it's in the family, we just have to keep that gene, that switch from turning on.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't mean that because you have that, and then I'll finish it. It says in summary, BRCA mutations confer risk, not destiny.
Mm.
For risk, not destiny. And breast cancer typically arises from an interaction between the predisposition and environmental or lifestyle triggers. So you can have, we all have gene mutations,
Mm-hmm.
but we're not going to have cancer. It's what turns those on and off, right? And
Yeah.
this is why a lot of the education you do is centered about the seven key principles, Zach, that you've been following. It is centered about good sleep, hydration, exercise, weight management, having good relationships and not toxic relationships. Can I give you a short story? We had a patient that had breast cancer and it was on the right side. She had a tumor. So she comes to Cancun and she's there for 3 weeks. I had a consult with her and she put her husband on FaceTime because he didn't come down with her. So in that conversation, in that consult, her husband was on FaceTime. And it looked good, everything was fine. It was like, my consults are not 10, 15 minutes or like an hour or more. And so when that consult finished and she hung up the FaceTime, she said, "He's my problem. He's my problem." And I'm like, "Oh Lord." So I said, when you go back home, start communicating better, maybe go on dates, try to rekindle that love that you made a vow and you promised, go to see a movie together and seek some marriage counseling. And I thought she understood, right? So that was it. 3 months later, Zach, I'm at the clinic in Cancun. I'm walking in, and she's there in the lobby. And she sees me. She comes running. She said, "Dr. Tony, I'm cancer free. The tumor is gone. The lymph nodes are gone. Everything is gone." And I'm like, "Wow, great. Praise God." And then I asked her, "What do you think was the most important thing that you did to enable that?" And here was her answer. She said, "I divorced my husband like you told me to."
Oh,
Oh no.
And I'm like, "Wait,
so she
are you gonna
heard what you
divorce him?" Yeah.
she heard
However,
what she thought she heard what she wanted, but it
Mm.
wasn't
that's
what you were
right.
actually saying.
That's right. And
Wow.
the point is that the tumor went away when she got rid of the toxic relationship.
Oh no.
I even before coming down to it was the week before I was getting around for work and God told me, and again in the moment it did not make sense, but he put five people from my past and
Mm.
while I was praying, I was literally in the shower and he gave me these five names and said, "This is a part of your healing journey. You need to call them and reconcile and ask for seek forgiveness." And I'm like, I'm not calling that person. God, what you? I'm not calling that. For like half the day, I called these people, and I'm crying in my office, and I have to believe like there was like a chain broke, and like that was. I truly believe that was part of the healing process before I even, before learning about the things in your book and coming to Hope for Cancer and what we know now. And it's just like, there was one where it was one of my best friends from high school. And I called him and I said, "Dude, for the last 10 to 15 years, I've held this grudge against you." And I said, I forgive you. And within that 20-minute conversation, he said, "Zach, I've held a grudge against you and your family this entire time." And in that moment, the veil was lifted, the chains were shattered, and we talk. I don't want to say every week, but a couple times a month, he and I talk. And he said, "I want to be one of your biggest advocates for what you and your wife are doing, and for your healing journey." And I'm just like, man, you never like many of us, right? We're walking around with these
Yeah.
backpacks with baggage and heavy stones, and it's like we weren't created for that. We weren't meant to carry that burden and those loads.
I
And
want
cancer was a huge wake up call that just how much out of balance my life truly was. So,
and I want to make a comment for your listeners, Zach and Savannah,
yeah.
to really take note of what Zach just said in his story, because that is so, so important as part of your healing. And as a matter of fact, remember I told you I moved to New Jersey and I was 5 years old when my parents moved from Columbia to New Jersey. And our family is big. My mom has 11 brothers and sisters. And so when my mom passed away, when is that how many you want to have children?
She originally said 13 when we first met, and then she said
Wow.
5 to 7. So we're right in the ballpark.
Right. So when my mom passed away and she's with the Lord in 2021 during COVID, but not because of COVID, uh, you know, the matriarch, right? Like it's changed now because her brothers, her sisters, cousins, she was like the person that kept that glue to, that the glue
Yep.
of it all. But a few months ago, I thought, I want to meet with all my family that I can. So next April, we're organizing a family reunion in Colombia, and people are coming, family members are coming from Venezuela, from Colombia, of course, from the US, from Europe, from different parts of the world to get together. Because these are people that, they're my cousins, they're my uncles, they're my aunts, and my twins, Marcy, she hasn't met these. There's some grudges, there's some bad conflicts. It's a long story to tell you, but there's a lot of backpack stuff.
Yeah.
And that is my goal, uh, Zach, is to forgive and be forgiven for some of the stuff that is like generational. And for me, it's compounded because my mom and my dad are first cousins.
Mm,
So my mom's my mom, but she's also my cousin because from my dad's side, right?
mm,
She's my dad's cousin. So you could tell there's a lot of backpack stuff, generational stuff, and traumas and conflicts. And I'm so happy and I can't wait for that because as you felt it in your high school friend, is like that freedom, right? That release, that taking the weight off your shoulders. And I would encourage everyone that's listening to take that message to heart. And that was beautiful said, Zach.
You know what I like about that breast cancer patient story you shared? When she said, I'm healed, I'm tumor free, you said, what do you think made the most difference? You wanted to know what do you believe helped heal this? And there's so many doctors who don't take the time to ask that question.
Mm.
And I know like we've heard lots of stories of patients who they've healed, whether it's miraculously or through alternative means, but they go back to their original doctor who gave them the death sentence and they say, I'm healed. Can I tell you what I've done? And they don't want to listen. They don't want to hear it. They don't want to know. And so I love that about you that, you asked her, what do you think? Led to the tumor going away and the lymph nodes going away. What do you think made the most impact? So I'm
Yeah.
thankful
Thank you
that,
for catching that, Savannah,
yeah.
because I've always said that patients are our best teachers, right? So that will always be there for me. So we have to talk, Zach. You have to answer that question to me also.
I think it was like mine is a culmination of everything. It's definitely not Savannah. We're keeping her around.
What do you think protects you from burnout and disappointment? Like you're always going and you're speaking and you're asked to do a lot of things and then you have patients. You spend a whole week often in the clinics just meeting with patients one on one and I mean that's just I just don't know how do you manage the burnout and also discouragement?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, in a couple of days, I am going to Cancun and I'll be seeing roughly like 40 patients in 6 days. And these are long consults and then other meetings and webinars and podcasts and so forth. But, the Lord gives me a lot of peace and He gives me strength. And at the end of the day, I go to bed calmly in peace. Why? Because I've given it my best. And I motivate my staff. And I'm just thankful for the Lord that He put me on this mission, and it's superhuman strength that only can come from Him. I always have a smile, and it's never fake, right? That's the way the Lord made me. And I cannot see with my left eye. I don't know if you know that. Maybe it's in my book and you read it there, but I can't see with my left eye. And it's been such a blessing. We have a patient who's an ophthalmologist in Houston, and she has colorectal cancer,
Mm.
who's doing very well. And as an ophthalmologist, I told her about my eye to see if she had any thoughts because people are confused about this. I was born that way. And then she thought about it, and a couple of days later, she caught me and said, Dr. Tony, I want to tell you, I've been thinking about your eye. And I believe she said that you're one in about 50 million people that have this. She said, I don't know the exact statistics, but it's probably one in 50 to 60 million people that cannot see with one eye from birth, right? Not from an accident.
Mhm.
And then she said, you are able to see the invisible in the visible world, and you're able to see the visible in the invisible world. So I've given that a lot of thought, and it's just how the Lord made me so that I could pay attention. I
Mm.
could pay attention and be there, be present for the patient and, for my family and people I love, because I have to be extra attentive. Because if someone is on this side, I can't see them very clearly. I have to like turn my whole head,
Mm.
right? And
Mhm.
then I have hearing aids on both ears.
Mm.
So my hearing is not the best. So I have to really be present, right? And I just thank God because we're created perfectly in His image with some audition issues and lack of vision on my left eye. But, we're examples to the world. Anywhere I go, what's new in health for cancer? What are you doing? What can you teach me, Dr. Tony? And these are prominent doctors throughout the world.
Mhm.
Switzerland, Asia, Germany, Romania, wherever it is. And so I guess the answer to your question, Savannah, is where I get the strength and the not getting burned out is that this is a prophecy, this is a mission. It's being a steward to what the Lord has given me, the talents and the weaknesses, right? And having a group of people that I could trust now that the Lord has brought to both centers. You've been on both, so you know the love and everything. I was before this Vienna Congress last week. Marcy and the twins and I had a 1 week free time. We did a vacation before I did the 3 day conference.
She sent me a video of her like what's it called?
Oh,
Parasail?
paragliding, yes.
Paragliding.
Yeah.
Did you do that too? I didn't get a video
I
of
did,
you doing it.
I did that too. The four of us did it.
Dr. Tony's up there going, that's
Ah,
why we didn't get a video.
I'm
Yeah.
close to heaven. But I was going to say that for the first time in many years, I was able to take that vacation. And guess what? I felt at peace knowing that our team is doing such great work. So I didn't have to worry, right? Because, it's a lot of responsibility, right? And this is why you're asking me that question. But
Mhm.
I have more energy now than I did 25 years ago when I opened Hope for Cancer. And they said, when are you going to retire? What is that a word? Retire?
Well, we have a little exciting news to share too, although we're not pregnant again.
I was going to say, is that it?
Yeah, our 8-week-old baby, and I'm pregnant again. Oh my. Well, okay, so we've launched Levy Wellness, and we do a lot of things online and some consulting. I actually went through the IHPI, the Integrative Health Practitioner, so I've completed level 1. So now I do some, yeah, health coaching. But we are now adding a supplement to our Levy Wellness store.
Wow.
So it'll be a liquid. Um, like it's called an elixir. So you just add a teaspoon. But we're just so excited with what we've learned. When I was thinking what we should put in this bottle, I was like, what if we could bottle up everything Zach takes? And then it could just be all in so conveniently in one little teaspoon. So it's maitake, turkey tail, chaga, and reishi. And then the four adaptogens are dandelion root extract, turmeric or curcumin, black seed, and quercetin.
Quercetin, yes, yes.
Yeah. So those,
That combination is so powerful. At the conference where I go back to the Vienna thing, quercetin was talked about so much.
Hmm.
And by the way, you know more about mushrooms than I do, but they are gods. What is it? It's not a
fungi,
fungi. Yeah, god of
fungus.
fungi. People think, oh, this is fungi. That must be a bad thing, right?
Right.
Yeah, so we have to make sure. But yeah, these mushrooms are so powerful
Hmm.
that not only upregulate both ends of the immune system, the quick-acting immune system called the innate, but also the adaptive long-term memory immune system. And remember, everyone, the immune system helps us from a cold to cancer and everything in between. And that is what's being compromised most now in 2025, post-COVID
Hmm.
and the stresses and all that. So please really avail yourselves to this exciting new product because, wow,
I
awesome.
know. It's like full circle. So yeah, we're excited. That'll be in the 1st of November. We'll have those
Like
added to our.
around, it's around the corner,
I
right? And I
know.
want to tell you a turkey tail story because I developed a product years ago in 2008 that has turkey tail as one of its main ingredient. And you might have taken that product, Zach. It's called Immune Power Plus,
Oh yeah.
and then have turkey tail. But this product I studied in South Africa in the HIV/AIDS patient that have, severe immune deficiency and the results were amazing. It's spectacular. So I'm so happy that you added turkey tail to that
Yeah.
elixir. That's so
Yeah. Yeah, it's so the chaga, reishi, and turkey tail all come from the wild. So you have the fruiting bodies. So they're never grown in a lab. They're wild harvested and organic. So we're excited about it. And it's super, super
delicious.
potent. And you only have to have a little bit because it's so powerful and potent to have to be up that therapeutic dose. So
So let's all take it like you said, because as we mentioned, the immune system is so vital to our longevity.
yeah.
And we want to live as long as God allows us to with the
Hmm.
great quality of life, right?
Yeah.
Having lifespan and health span. And that's what you're having now, Zach, right? You're
Yeah.
looking good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for your book. Thank you for your work. It's such a blessing. And many people, right when you wrote your book, Savannah, you didn't know how many people
Yeah.
were going to bless, right? And
Yeah, when I was writing it, we had five little kids at the time, and I was pregnant. I was in my second trimester with our sixth baby, and I was writing it pretty much between 9 p.m. and 2 a.m. As my fingers just flew over the keyboard, I would ask, Lord, you already know you've ordained, you already know
yeah,
who's going to read this book. You know the message that they need to hear. So glide across this keyboard because I want those people to hear your message that you have for them. So, Zach and I, we always say we don't know a whole lot of medical things. Like we're not doctors. We haven't, I went through the IHP level 1 training and we've learned things through our experience, but we feel that our role in this next season of our life, our calling is to share his story. And the cancer was just the vehicle to drive us into people's lives. There are so many people in our inboxes who send us, we get calls all the time and emails and messages of people who were just given a terminal diagnosis. And these are people who are, for the first time, actually considering, where am I going to spend eternity? I was just told I'm going to face eternity. So where am I going? What is after this? Have I lived a good enough life? And we get to come in and tell them it's not about living a good life. Like we are not good people. And it's only because of Jesus's death and resurrection that his Holy Spirit can come live inside of us. And then we'll be identified when we meet God by his son and not our sin. And we get to tell them that message, that gospel, that story. But cancer is the vehicle that's driving us into people's lives. And we always say we don't know the cure for cancer. We don't know the cure for cancer, but we know the cure for sin.
Ooh,
And
I like that.
yeah, and we want to tell people. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I had a similar story, and I'll say it quickly, but when I wrote this first book, the Hope for Cancer book that you very well know, I asked an interventional oncologist in San Diego, who's a Christian. Her name is Dr. Jeannie Stryker, very well known in the west part of the US. And I said, Dr. Stryker, will you write an endorsement for my book? And so I sent her the manuscript. And she said, Dr. Tony, this is one of the best books I've read in this field. However, what I see this book doing more than anything is bringing people to Jesus.
Mm,
Mm.
And Zach,
that's the goal.
what I thought at that time, my job is done with this book, right? Yes. And
Yeah.
that's what we get from this book as well. So,
Well,
Yeah.
thank you. Well,
mhm.
if you could talk to someone directly who is just diagnosed with cancer today, what would be the message you want to say? And we'll end with that.
First of all, seldom is cancer a medical emergency. Seldom is cancer a medical emergency, so there's time to get a second, there's time to get a third opinion, there's time to pray and be still. Go to your room, go to the woods, go to the park, and just be still and talk to the Lord for guidance. And do not be in fear because the conventional world has their limited box. And know for sure that if you are going to do conventional medicine, chemo, radiation, any of that, it always must be in the context of an integrative approach following those seven key principles. So replace fear with faith as soon as you can, pain with purpose, and see yourself on top of the mountain, thriving and as a survivor, victorious in his name, just like Zach is right now.
Mm.
And no one can take hope away from you, only yourself. And hope is something that the Lord gave us. So, and He loves us as His he loves us. He loves us dearly, and he'll never abandon you. We all have stuff, as you said. We're sinners, and we're not perfect by any means, but and healing comes from him. So, I guess in summary, my answer to your question is, don't panic. Don't rush and get the port and do the chemo because they're pressuring you. Cancer is seldom a medical emergency. You have time to do your research, to pray, to think, to do get a second, third opinion, and then let the Holy Spirit guide you. What gives you peace, whatever that route is, and go full steam ahead. I know we're humans and we might get that trigger. Is this the right thing? Or hey, what about that? But when the Lord guides you and the Spirit guides you, go in 100% confidence. And here's a great example sitting to your right, Savannah.
I know. Yeah, it's so true. That's what Zach did. I always say his knees were bruised because of how much he was on his knees seeking the
Yeah.
Lord. I mean, he knew that God was calling him in a different path, but we didn't know the path like at all. I didn't even know. They said they scheduled a port placement and an oncology appointment, and I was like, a call a what? I'm like, I don't even know what that means. And a port, like what? I didn't know what a port was. So
Mhm.
we had all these appointments to then go home and cancel. But they yeah, I mean, yeah, it's that's what Zach was able to do. He could hear the voice of God. And you know what? Me as the caregiver, I found so much comfort in that.
Mm,
He wasn't flying by the seat of his pants. Everything was calculated
mm,
with the Lord.
mm.
Everything was prayed over. And when I wanted him to move fast,
Yeah.
he would say, I I have to take that to the throne room. Let me bring that to the throne because I'm not sure yet.
Sometimes we'd wait on some things, it was months and weeks. Sometimes, I call them little downloads. God would give me little downloads. And
Mm.
it's like, there's times where it was days, weeks, or months that we would wait. And I'm like, we're supposed to do this. We're not supposed to do that. It was just something deep within my soul. I mean, it's more
Yeah.
than a feeling. That's what I always tell people. It was literally the Holy Spirit
Yeah.
dwelling in me and guiding me.
There's a video. I sent it to Marcy. This was probably a year ago. I sent it to her. But there's a field of sheep, and they're in the pasture far away, and a whole group of people come up to the fence, and the shepherd says, "I want you to try to call the sheep to you."
Mm.
And so the people try their little yodel, shepherd call, and it sounds very similar to what the shepherd would do. But they're at the fence line and they're, "La, la, la," trying to call their sheep, and the sheep don't come. They just their heads are bowed. They're eating their grass. They don't even
They don't
like
even
look
pay
up.
attention.
They're not paying
Yeah.
attention at all. But as soon as the shepherd calls the sheep
Wow.
one by one, their head starts just looking up and looking around. They spot the shepherd and they come running.
Mm.
Those sheep knew the sound of their shepherd's voice. And
Wow.
that's how I describe Zach
Mm.
on the whole journey of cancer and even still now today. Other things would call for his attention, but he knew the sound of the shepherd's voice and he popped his head up and ran as soon as he heard it.
Savannah, I'm going to borrow that story and I'm going to tell it in some of
I'll
my
text
talks
you.
because
I'll
that's
text
so
you the
powerful.
video. Yeah, I will text you
Okay.
the video because you have to watch it for yourself. Maybe put that in your little slideshow or something that if you have a
Yeah.
slideshow because the video is so powerful to watch it. I can explain it, but to watch it, you want to be those sheep who know the sound of their shepherd's voice so well and they obey. There's two
Yeah.
parts to that. They knew the sound of the shepherd's voice, but they obeyed. They came when he
And the
called.
thing, and the thing with this story is that just happened to us last week when we were in Europe. We were walking in the valley of 74. It's called the Valley of 74 Waterfalls. It's amazing. And the Lord is there. But there were the sheep and there was the fence, and the fences was an electric fence. They don't want you to go over.
Hmm.
And so the same, just what you just said. And I said, oh, those sheep don't like me.
Wow.
I'm not the
No,
shepherd that
you're
was
not the
calling them,
shepherd. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
Wow. Well, then you don't need the story. You have your own story. That's so cool. Yeah.
So, Dr. Tony, in wrapping up here, where can people find your book? Where's it available?
Yeah, the first book, Hope for Cancer, Seven Principles to Remove Fear and Empower Your Healing Journey, is available on Amazon. And it's been there. It's in Japanese, in Romanian, and in English, if you have some of those followers. And then the second book, Cancer Outsmarted, will be on Amazon soon. It's not there yet. We will have it at the Reimagining Health Summit. We'll have this and in English and in Spanish. And then my third book, I really want everyone to not forget this, and we'll be speaking more about this. The Emotions in Cancer book. It's spectacular. That comes out next February, February 2026. And even Kelly Turner from Radical Remission, she wrote a little thing for the book, and other Dr. Gilbert Renau, he's like the father of recall healing and total biology. He wrote the foreword. So it's very, very powerful book. And that's one of the missing links, right? In all this healing circle is the emotional component to healing.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. Oh, well, thank you so much.
So, everybody, if you're watching, make sure you pick those books up, as well as Savannah's. I'll give that shameless plug.
Well, thank you so much. It was an honor. And I don't say that as a cliche, right? I say that because I honor what you do. I honor your commitment to the Lord first, and then to each other and to your children, and now to Lady Wellness, right? Finding the cause and finding the cure. And yes, let's talk about cure going forward.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
With that, we pray blessing over Hope for Cancer and protection over you guys, your family, your children, and just let's see what God's going to do.
Amen. Thank you both.
All
God
right.
bless.
God
Okay.
bless.
Bye.